Well, we're going to open the Budget Committee meeting on the Enhanced Law Enforcement District and start off with introductions. JD, go ahead.
J.D. Pavick, I live in the district near Lake Oswego.
Good morning. County Commissioner. Good morning, Chair Bernard. Eric Hendricks. We live within the district, unincorporated Happy Valley for 11 years.
Ken Humberston, Clackamas County Commissioner, Vice Chair.
Mike Wilson, I live in Milwaukee.
Jim Bernard, Clackamas County Chair.
Myron Markwick, live in Oak Grove, been there for 30 years.
Martha Schrader, County Commissioner.
Tom Feely, live in unincorporated North Clackamas County, just over the fence from the city of Gladstone.
Sonia Fisher, County Commissioner.
Don Krupp, I'm the county administrator, and I also serve as the district administrator for the service district.
Diane Padilla, budget manager.
Okay, with that, we need to elect a chair and a secretary. And is there a motion to elect a chair?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I nominate Michael Wilson to be chair of the ELED Budget Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we elect Michael Wilson as chair of the ELED district. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, turn this over to you for election of a secretary.
Thank you, Chairman Bernard. Are there any nominations for secretary of the Budget Committee?
Chair Wilson, I'd like to nominate Mr. Tom Feely for secretary.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and nominate Tom Feely to be secretary of the Budget Committee. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay. Motion carries. Tom Feely, you are now secretary of the Budget Committee. Sheriff Roberts, do you have a budget message? And if so, whom will present that?
I want to add that we're trying to make the presentations about half and the rest questions.
Great. Well, good morning. I'm Sheriff Craig Roberts with Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, and I'm going to try and accommodate Mr. Bernard and make sure we're on time and done soon. And so just to kick it off, I want to extend a big thanks to the Enhance Budget Committee members that volunteer all their time to help throughout the entire year. So I want to thank you. And also good morning to the Board of County Commissioners and staff. Want to introduce our staff, so I'm going to have them introduce themselves to my left. I'll start with you.
Good morning, Chair Wilson, Commissioners, members of Budget Committee. I'm Nancy Artman, the Sheriff's Finance Manager.
Good morning, Under Sheriff Matt Ellington.
And Patrol Captain Jeff Smith.
So we'll go ahead and get started, and the budget message for fiscal year 2018-19. The Clackamas County Enhanced Law Enforcement District, also known as the ELED, was approved by the voters back on November 8th, 1994, and began levying taxes on July 1st, 1995. Back then, the permanent tax rate of 0.7198 per thousand assessed values used to assess taxes on properties lying within district boundaries. The goal of the ELED was to provide an improved level of patrol services in the unincorporated area of Clackamas County within the metropolitan urban growth boundary, including back then the cities of Happy Valley and Johnson City. On July 1st, 2003, the city of Happy Valley opted out of the district after passing law enforcement local option tax. In keeping with the goal of the district to provide additional patrol services within the boundaries of the district, Happy Valley contracts for full-time law enforcement services with the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. The Clackamas County Sheriff's Office provides the personnel for Happy Valley's Police Department. The fiscal year 2018-19 budget is built to support 36 sworn positions. The fiscal year of 2018-19 budget includes one additional full-time deputy, As you may recall, one full-time deputy was also added in fiscal year 2014-15 and 17-18. Additionally, the budget supports materials and services costs for 36 positions. These items include uniforms, our C-800 radio support, and dispatch services. The ELED's projected tax revenue for fiscal year 18-19 is $7,119,201. This represents $281,201 increase, or a 4.11% from the prior fiscal year budgeting revenue of $6,838,000. The major budget items for the ELED are $5,866,892 to fund personnel costs for 36 positions, 29 deputies, 6 sergeants, 1 lieutenant. This figure, an increase of 2.63% from fiscal year 17-18, includes the salaries, fringe benefits, overtime, holiday pay, and workers' compensation. $534,248 for professional services, which includes a 5.41% increase in cost for dispatch services provided by CCOM, and $180,540 in building note principal and interest for North Station. That is actually a reduction of 0.76% from the prior fiscal year of $181,920. The Sheriff's Office is committed to remaining a good steward of the ELED funds. These resources will be used to achieve the district goals relating to emergency response, full-service law enforcement, and neighborhood quality of life. I wanted to make a couple additional notes in the interest of time. We're going to kind of pass through the slides. One of the things I wanted to bring to the Budget Committee's attention is performance Clackamas. I'll be frank, I was a little reserved about getting involved in that. We had community corrections start on a smaller project. Whenever we take one of those projects on, you have to realize when we take staff away for 5 days, for an entire day, that's a lot of money, and want to make sure it was good use. So I wanted to report back to the Budget Committee that Don Krupp did an amazing job in finding the facilitators, and so they are really, I can't say enough about that group. We're working, they're here again, so setting our goals and really managing for results. So we're really excited about it, and it's been a real benefit. The other thing I wanted to mention, this has come up in the past, but I know Frank Magdalene sent some comments about some of the concerns about staffing level. I thought it might just be a good educational time to kind of revisit some of those questions and try and answer some of those. As you know, I always have Nancy, Matt, and Jeff as helping me research all of these issues and making sure we're staying on top of them. And I think I'll start with Matt and turn that over to him to some of his research that he can present for you.
Thank you. If I could I get you to pass these out? What she's going to hand out is a 2001 opinion from then County Counsel James Coleman on the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. And the question was, back then, was does the district have to provide 1 deputy per 1,000 in the district? So he turned and looked at the ballot language and the explanatory statement, and the answer to that question is no. And the reason is that the voters were just asked whether or not to form a law enforcement district with a tax base of $3.3 million and an assessed value of 89 cents per thousand. The voters answered yes to that, and that was all they answered yes to. As he goes on to explain, and you'll read, the language in the explanatory statement is what the district would try to do, but they're only authorized to spend the money based on the tax revenue that the voters authorized. So at the time it passed, it was 89 cents per thousand. In 1990, and that was in 94. In 1997, Oregon voters passed Measure 50, which reduced that assessed value from 89 cents per thousand to 72. Using today's dollars, that difference between 89 and 72 cents per thousand is about $1.8 million, which is about 13 deputies that we can't hire, but could have hired if we were 89 cents per thousand. If you look at the last paragraph on page 3 of council's opinion, the first sentence reads, if the amount levied was not enough to pay for the service level stated in the explanatory statement and the ballot title summary, the district has neither the authority nor the funds to spend more. So we're bound by the revenue coming in. We do use it wisely. We do hire folks, and as the sheriff stated, we add bodies when we can, when the revenue's there. The other thing I would like to add is that, you know, back in 1994 when this thing was passed, I don't think anybody sitting here in front of you were part of management then and were involved in what the numbers were, what they're anticipating, what the revenue would pay for. I'll just say that the ELED right now pays about $1.3 million in allocated costs, dispatch cost, C-800 costs, and North Station debt service. I don't know if they contemplated this back then when they came up with the ballot, but if that was turned into deputies, that'd be about 10 more deputies added to the district. So the 13, if we were collecting 89 plus 10 for not paying those other costs, would be another 23 that could be added to the district. I hope that helps explain where we're at today and what the staffing levels are.
I'll wait till you're done.
Oh, I'm done.
So right now, just open for questions.
Chairman Bernard?
So, the debt service on North Station, do you look at the interest rate on that and consider refinancing? Or how old is that debt?
I believe Nancy can answer that. I know it was, I think, refinanced at one point, but right now it's about $180,000 per year.
Oh, that's
Yes,
not bad.
The debt issue was refunded so that the interest rate went down. I can't tell you how much, but it was part of
Okay,
a
thanks.
package financing, if you will, and it benefited the district.
Thank you.
And to further address your question, Commissioner Bernard, the rates are set by the county, so we will speak with them, but in terms of negotiation of the rates and the debt service, that's something that's done at the county finance level. We can't really impact that at the sheriff's office.
Thanks.
Commissioner?
Thank you. I was actually going to apologize to you for asking the question that you actually brought up without giving you a chance to be aware of the question. I don't like to play gotcha, but apparently Frank did contact you, and that made it a little more polite,
Actually,
I guess.
I contacted.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Good. Because I got the question over the weekend, so it wasn't like it was opportune. But I'm wrestling with the numbers a little. So I'm going to ask you for an explanation to that. Initially, when the district was passed, my understanding is that you had 49 deputies assigned to that area. Once it was passed, the expectation was it would be 85 deputies. As you have explained, because the Measure 5, did you say, I think it was?
Measure 50.
Or 50, okay, Measure 50, reduced that to 72 cents from 89 cents, which would have cost you about 13 deputies. Am I correct in that so far?
Yes.
Okay. So when I add 49 and 23, which would be 36 minus 13, I come up with 72 deputies. And yet, what I understand to be the case is that there are only 42 deputies in that, servicing that area. Can you explain that, those numbers to me, please?
Well, there's more than 42 deputies in that area. And
Okay,
first of all, I think the assumption that there was 49 in 1994 working in the, what is now the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. We just got this email Sunday, so we haven't time to totally research it. But anecdotally, I think that's false. I think maybe countywide there was 49, but all three of us were working patrol districts at that time, and there was not that many people just in that area. Second of all, I would just also add, and we've talked about this before, is that Happy Valley opted out, so there was a big portion that left then. Also, they've been pretty aggressive in annexation, so there's a lot of properties being removed from the ELED because of that.
When they annexed, does that, do those funds, that 72 cents per thousand from those annexations come out of your budget?
It's not collected by the assessor, correct?
Okay, thank you. Okay.
As Happy Valley annexes, you actually lose that, but it's added back in the contract, I assume.
Well,
is
so their
outside.
police services are totally funded by a levy, so it isn't really added back until
Dollar
they
for dollar.
add to that levy.
Commissioner Savas?
So the Happy Valley portion is not part of the district, it's not contracting with the district, it's contacting with the sheriff's office?
Correct.
Okay, so, yeah, I got this late too. I know this has come up in the past, my recollection, and so I just want to get clarification. I mean, and then I want to get to my actually point, which is looking forward, but now that this is out there, the 1.8, the delta between the 89 cents and the 72 cents equates to 1.8 million?
Correct.
Okay, and your comment was it would be 23 deputies that 1.8 could fund?
Well, that 1.8 would be about 13 deputies.
13, okay. I thought I heard 23, okay.
Well,
So
the
13.
23 number came from, if the ELED was not going to pay for allocated costs, dispatch costs, North Station debt service, all of that rolled up is about $1.3 million, which would be about 10 more deputies.
Okay, I follow, okay. So, looking forward, we'll figure this out, I guess. I don't, the language in the ballot measure says about twice in the ballot measure, as I recall, the explanatory statement. So it's not a firm commitment, it's about, and that was 23 years ago. And it's logical to know or assume that the cost, operating cost then, that eventually, somewhere in the future, we may not be able to fund any deputies, right? I mean, at some point in time, there's a mathematical certainty that costs will outpace revenues, right? And so that means a shrinking effect. So with that said, I believe Mr. Hendricks came and spoke to us about just on the fact of the jail aspect, another cost we want to fund, but the levy had come up, and I think when we were talking about the levy, I think I mentioned suggesting that we maybe ask for a little bit more, and I know that puts in jeopardy perhaps the ability, depending on how much you ask for, jeopardizes the amount of it passing, but it's passed overwhelmingly twice, two highly successful. So I'm looking for, knowing that these jaws of death, not unlike your department, not unlike any other department, we're all facing increasing expenditures at a faster rate than we are revenues. There's a reality that we need to find a solution. So I'm open to hear if you think a levy is the answer. We're here today as a ELED, and I think I suggested to Mr. Hendricks when he spoke on Thursday, well, maybe we ask for more from the ELED, not unlike we did at the Parks District. Somehow, the permanency of the ELED is more appealing than the temporary status or the 3-year constantly going back on a levy. That's a burden. And it just seems that the more permanent solution would be trying to ask for more. And whether that's in process of, but should we go out for a higher amount, 89 cents or 99, I don't know what the number is, but I'd just like to hear what your suggestion is.
Yeah, Nancy wanted to make a couple comments first in regards to that.
Thank you, Sheriff. So Commissioner Savis, with regard to the revenue and expenditures for the ELED, it's a little bit more solvent than the levy. So we actually don't have the same issue with compression. So the district is able to bring in funds to cover its budget. And in fact, in the last 5 fiscal years, we've added a deputy 3 times. So we've been able to add 3 FTE. We look like we're probably going to be able to do the same thing next year as well for next fiscal year 1920. We do have a proposed deputy in our budget for 1819. Where it may be an issue down the line if something drastically changed with collections, if we had a tank in the economy, quite frankly, is that we probably would look at the ELED not paying some additional materials and services costs. So what Under Sheriff Ellington mentioned with some cost allocations, we may levy less cost allocations to them. There might be less payment in terms of casualty insurance, some of the other supporting costs. But the ELED would definitely cover its personnel. In terms of where that would come from, then it would be the sheriff's office who would have to make up that cost. So it would be built into our operations budget. And that's what we've seen happen with the levy, which is financially distinct and different from the ELED and solvent at this point in time.
Can I just respond?
Yes.
So, just so I understand, overall, big picture, are you suggesting that the allocated costs for the ELED are disproportionate to the share of what the levy did or what the sheriff's office in general does?
No, they are not. So how we allocate cost allocations is based upon FTE. It's a formula that we apply across operations, the levy, and the ELED. What I was stating is where the ELED would certainly keep paying for its personnel, perhaps someplace, if we didn't have the revenue, would be that maybe the sheriff's office would incur the cost for the cost allocations. Not that it's disproportionate. At this time, they pay a proportionate share of their casualty insurance, of cost allocations, and all of those other related costs.
Yeah, I just look at the whole big picture of the funds, and I mistakenly, I understand they're different, but I just take the ELED, the levy, and the general fund contribution, and put that all together and lump it in public safety, in this department. So, you know, to take one from the other, I think there's still a shortfall. Obviously there's a shortfall, and the shortfall will increase and grow. So I'm just thinking ahead, how do we solve this growing need? Not a shrinking need for revenue, but a growing need, and how that's done, whether it's the levy or the ELED or the sheriff's office general fund portion, because that's all limited on the property tax base, and the mathematical certainty is we're gonna need more on the current structure. And we can shift allocated costs from one to the other, but at the end of the day, we're still relying on a certain base, and which is inadequate.
Right.
And I guess, you know, one of the things is identifying priorities. I'm very cautious about going to the voters for money. And I think it's really important to, first of all, see what the citizens of Clackamas County are priorities. And one of the things to do is, you know, would start with a polling, and some groups such as the LED. Should we be asking for this, for additional money or not? You know, the citizens of Clackamas County have been amazing to support our levy. And I think that they do believe we're doing a good job with the money. I can tell you that one of the big issues facing us is actually a jail. It is built in 1957. It's an antiquated system, and it has millions of dollars of repairs just to keep it going. So part of which I would love the board, you know, to help support doing some polling to see what are the priorities from the citizens of this county, because we have some challenges. I agree with you. I think that we've been doing an amazing job with that money that the voters have given us to support that levy. The drug task force, I can tell you right now, is the top in the entire state. They're making bigger seizures than we've ever seen in the history since I've ever been here at the sheriff's office. So the return on investment, as I say, is for those dollars. We are doing a good job with that amount. But as you are correct, long-term is how is the long-term growth of the county and the revenue and the priorities where we sit is a big question. But my suggestion would be, you know, we formed that Blue Ribbon Committee to look at that. Is this the right direction to go before really kind of stepping out and saying, hey, we need some more money? Would be my recommendation as kind of a first step.
Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, thank you for that, Craig, because I just wanted to share some institutional memory here. We need a new jail. We've needed a new jail for a while, and particularly now, colleagues, because we're going to be building, looking like we're moving forward with a big courthouse, which I think is appropriate because our judges have never had the room. We need more judges. However, we don't have the jail capacity, okay, for the kinds of upswing in efficiencies that we will have with the new courthouse. And I remember being with Craig when Judge Sealander, am I correct, really was becoming more and more upset because of early release. They felt that their directives were not being followed. And it became they tried to make it a crisis. I think you and I handled it very deftly, where I said, no, we're still working together. But I remember being in the courtroom with Judge Sealander, who, with one of our county councils, who was just livid with the judge, who also was a personal friend of mine. And I just had to say, no, just calm down. This too shall pass. Let the venting happen, and then we will recheck. And that was back in, what year was that? 2004, 2005? So we kind of need to get on the jail. And I was on the first Blue Ribbon Committee, or at least probably not the first, with folks, again, looking at the potential for a new jail. So I would say it looks like the courthouse, because we can get 50% funding from the state. Frankly, gentlemen, we can't pass that up. But the unintended consequence for law enforcement in general, whether it's the ELED and just Clackamas County, is going to be a significant lack of capacity, which the judges will not be happy with. Just an editorial comment, sorry.
Well,
Okay.
the other thing is that people aren't staying in the jail waiting to get into court.
Exactly, there's a bottleneck
Exactly
there,
right.
exactly.
Yep.
Bottleneck.
There's, you know more than I do. I'm just editorializing. I understand that, but that's going to be a need. Yeah.
Any other comments?
Briefly, I just want to make a point that when you start looking at the courthouse, the jail, OSU, and a number of other projects we've discussed, we probably have $1 billion, with a B, $billion, worth of construction projects ahead of us. And how we're going to fund those is the big question. And that really is what this comes down to. Until we figure out how we're going to get the revenue for $1 billion worth of
Running short
actual
of time.
capital projects, it's just going to be patched together.
Just real quickly, question, if we actually build the courthouse to the size, proposed, and add courtrooms and so forth, how much relief does that have as far as throughput to relieve jail bed requirements?
In other words, you can process
No,
faster.
I mean, they'll be, building a new courthouse will actually add a burden. It won't
that?
relieve things.
How's that?
They'll be processing more people through. We're at the bottlenecks right down there. I mean, I have jail beds that are closed that I can't get open. So I can tell you that adding a courthouse, will place a bigger burden on us. It will take additional staff to provide security, depending on how it's built. And that's why I've been a big advocate of saying the courthouse and the jail need to be next to each other. And you need to be able to walk them through a tunnel or whatever it is, because one of the biggest things in operating a jail is resources, staff time. And if I have to load them in a car and drive them, whether it's 2 blocks or 2 miles, the cost is the same. So operationally, it will kill us financially, long-term on that.
I understand the operation part. I wasn't speaking of the operation part. I was talking about how many people are housed in the jail longer than they ought to be because of the bottleneck of the courthouse or processing those folks. Because the jail's not a prison, right? It's not a place where you warehouse people that are convicted of a crime. It's a place where people are arrested pending action through the justice system, correct? I mean, they're in jail because they're awaiting the justice system to respond to them before they're actually placed or released, right?
But if they're sentenced for less than a year, they serve their time in jail rather than go down to Salem.
Right, so my question is the processing aspect, that adding courtrooms does not process people faster that are sitting in jail?
If you're asking if I see a relief from it, I really don't. I mean, I just,
Let's
I'd be
let's
more-
move along here.
yeah.
Sheriff, do you have any other budget items that you want to talk about?
No, sir.
Okay. Is there any, moving into the public comment, public hearing comment, does anyone have a public comment that they want to make to the hearing? No. There being none, we'll move on to consideration of the sheriff's budget, ELED budget.
Hey, Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I move that the Budget Committee approve the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District as presented and impose the maximum permanent tax rate within district boundaries.
Been moved to approve the budget. Do I hear a second? Moved and seconded to approve the budget. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Last time, any further discussion? We'll now take a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.